This season has already gone to some deep, dark places, and it's literally been just the first episode. This episode of Mr. Know-It-All Reviews, we're going to talk about House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 1. Let's go. What's up, my know-it-alls? All right, so I didn't review last season because hot on the heels of Game of Thrones and what I considered myself to be a disappointing ending, I wasn't sure what to expect from Season 1. So Season 1, by the way, knocked my socks off. Definitely here not to complain about it. It was amazing. As a result, I'm now doing Season 2. I apologize because the reason it was taking so long for these videos is I'm recovering from a head cold. And so even like my voice right now, but I had to talk about it because I didn't want to not. So if you remember last season, they had just ended with literally Rhaenyra sends her two sons as a sign of strength, sends them to two separate areas. And what happens is her youngest gets caught up in what really boils down to a pissing match between his cousin, Aemon. And Aemon, with one eye, gets real upset. And next thing you know, the two boys are fighting in the sky. Well, one of them is fighting. Let's be real. Lucerys is trying his best to get away as fast as possible. Out of nowhere, bam, Vhagar comes in and it's lights out. Okay, that's how that season ended. So this season begins on the wall. It's our first time we get to see the wall. I actually I dig the fact that we go straight to the north. Also we get introduced to Cregan Stark, which I'm not a book reader. But then, I mean, I never got into Game of Thrones and all the book stuff and all the whatnot. I've kind of just purposely stayed in the realm of the shows. And though I am a fantasy novel enjoyer and lover, but I don't like, I don't watch TV shows that don't have an ending on them, that I don't know are going to end. And as a result, I hate, because I've been too gun shy from being too often having shows canceled. So as a result, because George R.R. Martin hasn't finished writing the series, I refuse to pick it up. Because I don't know if that man's going to go and before he gets a chance to finish it, and I'm not going out like that. So I've strictly stayed in this realm, which makes me a very, very particular kind of fan. So those of you who do know everything about the series, by all means, comment below, correct me. I look forward to the fact that this is one of those rare things Mr. Know-It-All doesn't know everything about. So by all means, chime in. Cregan Stark, I know for a fact, comes from there's a brief history or some histories that George R.R. Martin wrote, and he's from that. And rather than show any of how he came to be, I know there was some sort of a battle, struggle for power. We jump right into his reign currently as the Steward of the North. And so the Targaryen boys there talking to him and saying, hey, they're going for a walk on the wall. And he's telling the whole story. He being Cregan. And we get to see the whole thing. And essentially what I really love is that Jacaerys he's doing his best not to be rude, but all he's being is rude. But not on purpose.
It pleases me to think that over a century ago, our ancestors treated in this very place. The Conqueror and the King in the North.
You, at least, had the mercy not to threaten me with your dragon.
And so because essentially Jacaerys is boiling it down to, look, I know that you guys think you need all these people to guard a wall of ice against the North, the wild ones and the people from the North and this and that beyond the wall, but your liege lady could use your help with this and that. So he agrees. He said he has this really great moment. Remember, we're all coming from this hindsight because we've seen Game of Thrones. We know what's on the other side of the wall. And he looks at it and he goes, you think my ancestors built a 700-foot wall of ice against weather and wildlings? And I'm just like, bro, that's so real. We also get to hear our very first time winter is coming, which in this context is great. He ends up deciding, okay, he's going to send roughly, he's like, I got 1,000 of what they call the Grey Wolves. Grey Wolves are, I guess, the old weathered soldiers. They haven't retired yet, so they're not that old. They are old, but they're not old enough to retire, but they're close. They call them the Greybeards, and the Grey Wolves or something to that effect. And so that's when a raven arrives. And this raven tells them about what's happened with Lysiris. There's a brief encounter where Daemon has to talk to she's the queen who never was. And they have a conversation, and he's like, we need to go, we need to do stuff, we need to fight, this and that. I don't know why she doesn't understand this. And she explains to him flat out, listen, man, when my kid died, I had to see the body before I could grieve.
A raven has told Rhaenyra that her son is dead. She needs to know it for certain.
Because Rhaenyra took off. Oh yeah, she jumped on her dragon and took off. And he's having a hard time dealing with it, but he's dealing with it for the most part. She flies to Storm's End, and she's more or less looking for any sort of remnants of Arax. And what she ends up coming across is some fishermen who found like a wing, and she finds a cloak, and it's enough for her to grieve. And when she comes home, she literally, Rhaenyra says two things in the whole thing. She says,
I want Aemond Targaryen.
Okay. That's it. That's all she says. That's all she needs to say. And Daemon is like, okay. And he literally takes that as his permission. And so what does he do? He goes to put some things in motion. So behind this, that's the main plot of the whole thing. Behind the scenes, the B plot leads into the ending of the thing. I say B plot because this was happening on the other side. Because you see both sides. You get the green side, the black side, and ultimately what I think I've just described is what's happening on Rhaenyra's side of things, the black side. So now we go to the green side. There's a whole lot happening there, and none of it's good. So your girl, Alicent, is she's sleeping with Sir Crispin because he's got this weird twisted way. He's soiling his white cloak everywhere. That boy does not know how to keep it in his pants, and it's terrible. I'm just like, bro, stop it. Stop the madness. And what ends up happening is that she says to him,
We cannot. Again.
And he's like, okay, no problem, whatever. Meanwhile, she's juggling everything. She's at the small council. Her son comes in. He's dragging his kid along with him. And I guess there's reasons for that. His dad was no kind of dad who really didn't take an opportunity because he'd spent all his time when he was younger raising up Rhaenyra. So he really never took any of that time with him. So he's trying his best, even though he's a terrible king per se. He's just a kid playing at king. And he brings his kid and lets him kind of run around and stuff. And he almost makes the guy, the master of coin, give his son a pony ride, which I was like, that's hilarious and demeaning all at the same time. Meanwhile, no one's listening to her. She's getting frustrated. Finally, she has a word with her father and it's like, listen, man, if you want me to have any kind of sway over these boys, because things have just gone to the next level and nobody seems to understand that. Her father is using this whole thing as an opportunity. Because he's like, it's going to end in violence. We got to end in violence. We got to do it. We got to do. Come on, he wants that. And she's like, you don't understand, because deep down inside, even though she's a woman of faith such as it is, she's also trying still to hold on to some grasp of a relationship with her best friend, her childhood best friend. She doesn't realize that's all done. Yeah, there's no more of that anymore. That's not happening. This is all going to go down, and it's going to go down something fierce. And it does. Because then we get back to, and we get this little name drop thing where his wife, the king's wife, literally says, she's sort of sitting there, sort of dreamy, kind of not with it all. And she's essentially says at one point to the king,
I'm afraid.
Don't be. They'd be fools to come with Vhagar protecting the city.
Not the dragons. The rats.
That's the one little tidbit we know. Call it Chekhov's rat, because clearly it's going to come in handy. And you do see some rat catchers running around and whatnot. So this one gal who we knew from last season was a informant, if you will. She gets captured on a boat by the blockade, and Daemon he's cornered her, and he basically says to her, she's like, go scheme with someone else. I don't care. She's tired. She's over it. And Daemon says, I'm going to give you your freedom. I want information. And he finds out rat catchers can get in, blah, blah, blah. He finds a specific name. So who decides to sneak back into King's Landing like a boss? Daemon. I'm like, bro, you realize even with the hood on, your hair's all hanging out. Y'all, the Targaryens are the only ones with the platinum blonde hair. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But apparently there's someone at the gate in that one particular gatehouse who is loyal to them. And so he conscripts that guy, and he conscripts the rat catcher, and he throws money at them. And he essentially said, look, a son for a son. I need you to go find, he wants him to find Aemon and kill him in his sleep. It doesn't matter what it takes. Aemon needs to go. Okay. That's the intention. That's the intent. You catch me? Good. These two geniuses go sneak in. You find out once they're in. The rat catcher can't take. He's the lower level rat catcher. Apparently the royal side has its own rat catchers. So big burly guy over here is like, you better get your goofy butt upstairs and get me in that daggone royal apartment. He's like, okay, let's go. And they go. As they're creeping through, they can't find what they're looking for. They can't find Aemon. So what happens? They come across Helena, the queen. They come across her and her two twins. There's a boy and a girl. And I guess this deviates a little bit. I've heard this deviates from the story of the book. But they essentially threaten to kill her. They say, point out the boy right now. Because they're like, son for a son. Who cares if it's not Aemon? It'll be somebody. Who better than the heir? So what happens is she points out the son. And off camera, it happens. That's the dark place. I'm not even going to say it. It's terrible. Son for a son was right. And sure enough, the chicky's freaking out, and she grabs her one kid they haven't messed with, their daughter, runs right into the queen's chamber while her and Sir Crispin are, are going for a ride, if you will. And it's just so bad. And she doesn't even care because she's like, they did it, they're here. And she knows. Oh, Alicent knows. Yeah, man. And that's where the episode ends. So there you go. Now you know. If I'm not exactly the battle, you're halfway to being know it all yourself. What's it all next week's episode? This is a solid start, man. I tell you what, we're going to have a hard time this season because I'm going to have to find ways to be way more critical because this show right now, so far, I don't remember an episode last season I didn't like. And I remember about 2/3 of the way regretting that I hadn't been reviewing it. So this episode for me, and this is strictly so that I have someplace to go, it's a 9 out of 10. All right, guys, comment below. Let me know what you thought. I cannot wait to see everything that this show has to offer. I think it's going to get way darker and way rougher before it gets even remotely close to finished. A whole lot of blood's going to be spilled. All right, guys, I'll talk to you real soon. Don't forget, we're going to have a whole bunch of, I'm going to have playlists and everything else for you guys to start watching as we move forward. Until then, over here, this playlist is this is the know-it-all reviews. This is where all my reviews for everything that I do exist, live, and you can subscribe up there. All right, guys, I'll talk to you again real soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.